Good morning, students. Ravi Siddesh, are you here?
Yes, ma'am. Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning. Confusions ಇದೆಲ್ಲ
ಮ್ಯಾಮ್ ಅದು ಬ್ರೇಕ್ಔಟ್ ರೂಮ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಎಲ್ಲ ಇದೇ ತರ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ ಮ್ಯಾಮ್.
ಬ್ರೇಕ್ಔಟ್ ರೂಮ್ ನಿಮಗೆ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿಲ್ಲ, HOT ಗೆ ಅಷ್ಟೇ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾರೆ.
ಹೌದು ಮ್ಯಾಮ್.
ಮುಂಚೆದೆ ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿತ್ತತ್ತಾಗೆ, ಇದು ಹೊಸದೇನೋ ಮಾಡಿ.
ಹೌದು ಮ್ಯಾಮ್, ಹೌದು ಮ್ಯಾಮ್.
ಓಕೆ ಬನ್ನಿ, ಐ ವಿಲ್ ಜಸ್ಟ್ ಸ್ಟಾರ್ಟ್. ಓಕೆ
ಓಕೆ ಮ್ಯಾಮ್.
ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ ರೂಮ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇದೀವಲ್ವಾ?
ಎಸ್ ಮ್ಯಾಮ್.
ಓಕೆ. Good morning, students. Okay, yesterday I was telling you about the role of insects in the pollination. Have been pollinated by the not pollinated, so which are cross-pollinated plants. Okay, so here, as yesterday I have mentioned, 80% of the crops, okay, so they're cross-pollinated. And only we have is the 20% is only the one which are self-pollinated. Okay, and here I have mentioned the different categories like under the fruits. Okay, almost whatever the fruits, major fruits we are eating. So citrus, you can see mango, grapes, okay, coffee, coconut, all they are the cross-pollinated fruits. Next, you have the category of the vegetables where you can see especially the cucurbits, okay, and also the gourds and all. So all they need is the pollination by the bees. If the bees are involved in the pollination, the malformation of the fruits is avoided. Okay, nutrition value will be more. Then you have is the category of the oil seeds. So when you look into the category of the oil seeds, okay, so here how the bees are very important is that they increase the oil content in the individual seed. And also the grain size will be bigger when the insects are involved in the pollination. Ultimately, there will be increase in the yield and there will be increase in the oil content. So that is what you can see: mustard, rape, sunflower, cotton, alfalfa, safflower, any oil seed crop you list. So it is a cross-pollinated. Then under the category of the fodder crop, you have is the lucerne. You know that in Kannada it is called as the kudire menthe. Okay, so it is a good fodder and where you can increase the milk production. So this also you can see it is also cross-pollinated. Okay, so that is why especially the insects are playing an important role as a pollinators. So coming to the another type of the pollination. So just I have mentioned there is a self-pollination and also you have the another type of the pollination, that is a cross-pollination. So that is there in the plant. So here I am mentioning you another type of the pollination that is called as a buzz pollination, or it is also called as a buzzing. Okay, another term is the sonication. So what is this buzz pollination or the sonication? So what happens here, especially the bees are not involved, honeybees, okay, they are not involved in the buzz pollination. For example, here you look into the definition of the buzz pollination. It is a type of a pollination in which bees, they vibrate to remove and collect the pollen from the flowers. And then during that time, they are incidentally doing the fertilization. So that means in certain kinds of the flower, I will just mention in 1 or 2 examples where you will find the buzz pollination. So here the pollen grains are hidden within the anther. Okay, so and also it is a closed one. So for the pollen to expose, they need this certain kind of the movement. Okay, so the bees and everything, it is during the course of the co-evolution it is. So the plants and the insects have co-evolved and everything is known to the plant and it is known to the insects. So what the certain plants need, they need is then, so the insects, it has to produce some of the vibration. With that, the anther will open and it will release the pollen. So later the insects will collect the pollen. During that process, they do the pollination. So that is called as the buzz pollination. Okay, especially as I told you here, the honeybees, they are not at all involved in the buzz pollination. They cannot vibrate. Okay, so that is the thing you have to remember. Honeybees, they do not do the buzz pollination. Where I have given you the example, that is a solitary bees. Solitary bees means they live singly. Okay, so that is what the solitary bees will do the buzz pollination. So what are the characters of the buds pollinated crops here? You can see the pollen, which is more or less firmly held by the anthers. As I told you, they are enclosed within the anthers and they are the smooth grained. So they are very smooth and they are firmly attached to the anthers. So that is the one. And you can see the characters of the flowers here. They are tubular, okay, with an opening at only one end. So these are the one of some certain characters where you find the crops which are buds pollinated. Okay, so the characters of the pollen is different, and whatever the type of the flower you find, it is tubular. Okay, then here what the bees will do. Okay. Now and rapidly it causing the flower and the anthers to vibrate. By that, so the pollen will be exposed. Okay, so that is what the bees will collect and go. Okay, and as I mentioned, honeybees cannot perform the buzz pollination. This you remember. And another thing here, you around 9% of the flowers of the world are they are the pollinated using the buzz pollination. Remaining all of the where you have is the normal, okay, where the pollen are exposed, they just the insect will land, collect, and then it will go. Okay, so this is the buzz pollination. In these photographs, you can see everyone you know about the tomato crop. Okay, so then because of that only I have taken the common example here. So the tomato crop, what happens? So the bees will not do the pollination there. They may go, they collect the nectar, but come out. But they cannot collect the pollen in the tomato. Why? Because the tomato flowers, they need the buzz pollination. So here you can see, this is the staminal cone. So this is what you can see here, the individual pollen grain. So this is the, okay, anther. This is the anther. Within the anther, the pollen grains will be there. So in order to expose the pollen grain, so the bee has to whatever it has to sit onto this staminal cone and it has to vibrate. So this is what is happening. You can see here, especially in case of the tomato. So in our area, because we don't have the bumblebees. Bumblebees are there only in the Himalayan region. What we have is the carpenter bee. So here, in case of the tomato, bumblebee is the best pollinator, but in a South Indian condition where you don't have the bumblebees, the other bees are doing the pollination in case of the tomato. So what the bumblebee will do, so it will come to the flowers of the tomato and sit onto the staminal cone. So this is a staminal cone where it has to be vibrated to open the pollen. So here what the bee will do, so the bee will come and sit onto the staminal cone and attached to the, especially the thoracic part is close to it. And after this, they start vibrating the flight muscles, because the muscles are very strong in case of the thoracic area, because it is a center of locomotion. So they vibrate the flight muscles, and also the head will be attached to the staminal cone, and with which it will be just, you can see here, where it is, the frequency, I think so it is not 350 times a second. You can see here, they band the head to the staminal cone at the rate of 350 times a second. So that is the speed the thoracic muscles will by vibrating the thoracic muscles, they produces the sound vibrations by which you can see the anther will expose the pollen and they collect and they go off. So this is called as a buzz pollination. Okay. So in tomato in our area, so we have other solitary bees. We call them as a megilla species, other halictid. Okay. Other bees are there which are doing the pollination in our area. Okay, and also I was telling you about the lucerne, which is a fodder crop. So many times we see the bees are visiting to the lucerne crop. So whenever you look into the lucerne crop, it supplies both the pollen so which has vibrated. So other bees will, solitary bees will come, vibrate it, and they collect the pollen, and they do the pollination in case of the lucerne, but not the honeybees. The honeybees may visit the lucerne, but they are not doing the pollination. They just collect off the nectar and they go off, but they do not collect the pollen because it's not possible for the honeybees to go for the buzz pollination. Okay, so this is what the buzz pollination. So next, coming to the, what are the agents of the pollination? So you know both the abiotic and the biotic agents are there in the pollination. They are helping in the pollination. So what are the common abiotic agents? So that is the non-living agents. So that is the one is the wind. So when a wind is involved in the crop pollination, so we call it as a anemophily. Anemo means it is a wind. Water, it is a hydrophily. Okay, wind, anemophily, and water, it is a hydrophily. So what are the character of these if they are pollinated by the wind and the water? So here you can see almost all, whatever you have, the maize and all. Okay, so they have, what are the characters you can see? The flowers are very small, and you can see that their flowers are not attractive. They are having the dull colored flowers, and pollen are dry, so that by the wind they can be easily carried. Okay, and water also can carry them. So pollen are dry and lightweight, so they can easily carried by the wind and the water. And the stigma, so I just remember the maize. The stigma is feathery with a large surface area, so that whatever the pollen they are coming, so they will settle on the stigmatic surface, and that is why it is a wider portion. And that is the maize, barley, wheat, and the sugarcane. So then you can see, as I told you, it is, they need a pollinators, but it is an abiotic agent, that is the wind and the water. So these are the characters of the plant which are pollinated by the wind and the water. So then what about the biotic agents? So there are many biotic agents are there. You can see here two categories we can do. The entire, if any animal, so we call it as a zoophily. Okay, zoo means any animal. So if animals are involved in the pollination, which is coming under the category of the biotic factor, we call it as a zoophily. Again, when you come particular to the insects, okay, so the insects, when they are involved in the cross-pollination, we call it as an entomophily. So you know that entomon means it is an insect. So entomophily means the agent of pollination is the insect. What if in case of the birds, it is a ornithophily, and if it is a mammals, it is a therophily. So these terminologies you should remember. Usually you will be getting them in the A part question paper. So mammals, it is a therophily. So together, birds and the mammals, they collectively called as a zoophily. Okay. So then what are the characters if the biotic agents are involved in the pollination? One thing is we have to attract. Okay. So for the attraction, they have the bright colored flowers. So whenever you see mainly the cross-pollinated crops, you look into any, especially as oilseed crops, everyone you might have seen, especially the sunflower, it is a yellow color. Okay, so especially they are bright color. What is that? Is the character of the flower. And another thing that they show some for attraction, they produce the large quantity of the pollen and the nectar. So apart from again what it is required the plant, they are producing the extra pollen. It is mainly for the biotic agents which are visiting. So it is all understood during the process of the coevolution. Then here the fragrance. So the smell will be coming from the flowers or anything. So that is known to the insect and they come for the collection of the pollen. And then you have is the sticky pollen. So especially the pollen in case of the cross-pollinated crops, if there are insects or any birds or the mammals are involved, the pollen are sticky, but whereas the wind and water, they are the dry pollen. Okay, so these are the characters of the plants which are cross-pollinated. Okay, everything. So as I told you, it is the process of the evolution, which is understanding between the plants and the insects. Okay, then you have is the, and just further, I'll be concentrating only on the insects. Okay, so here you have to remember this class of the pollination. So as you know that the bees are coming under the order Hymenoptera. So that is why I have listed the Hymenoptera the first. Okay, you have Hymenoptera doing the job of pollination, and other orders are the Lepidoptera, Diptera, and the Coleoptera. So involved in the pollination, we use the term that is a melitophily. So when the wasp, so the other wasp, when they go for the hunting of the animals, if they are mainly their predator, during the process also they are doing the pollination. So when the wasps are involved in the pollination, we call it as a specophily, and it is a then coming to the is the moths and the butterflies. So here you can see again in the moth. So hawk moths are active during, they start their activity during the crepuscular, that is the evening hours, and then they will be active during the night. Okay, so that is hawk moths. So if the hawk moths are involved in the pollination, we call it as a spingophily. Hawk moths mainly they come under the family Spingidae. So that is why it is a spingophily. If the butterflies are involved in the pollination as an adult, then we call it as a psychophily. If again within the moths, if the small moths are involved in the pollination, we call it as a phalonophily. Okay, so this is the category under the Lepidoptera. So when you come to the Diptera, so totally if the flies are involved in the pollination, we call it as a myophily. Okay, if the Coleoptera, that is the beetles and the weevils are involved in the pollination, we call it as a cantherophily. So these are the terminologies we have to remember. Okay, so this is the important part, so you have to remember. So next I will be moving on to the, so who discovered that the insects are doing the job of the pollination? So remember his name. So that is a Carl Reuter. In the year 1763, he reported that the insects are okay. So next here you can see 350 species of the insects, they visit the flowers. Okay, so before the flowering, then only you'll be getting the fruits. Okay, there are many species which are visiting the flowers. Then here I have listed many orders: Hymenoptera, Diptera, Coleoptera, Lepidoptera. Okay, Thysanoptera means it is a thrips. Hemiptera, it is a bug. Arthroptera, you know, crickets. Okay, Dermoptera, earwigs. Neuroptera, it is a main hive is the lacewing. So the pollination, not all, only few members may be involved in the pollination. So that is why I have listed some of the orders which are those insects are doing the job of the pollination for the plants. Next, coming here, whatever the orders I have listed, so you cannot completely depend on all these insects for the pollination, but only you have one insect, that is a honeybees. Okay, so they are the efficient pollinators. Okay, so and you know that why bee honeybees, so don't use the bees, it is a honeybees especially. Okay, honeybees are the efficient pollinators when you compare to the all other insects which are visiting the flowers. Why then? Why only honeybees are more efficient? So if you look into a package of practice of our university, and if we are coming from the Malnad area and all, okay, so what the farmers are doing is that, especially only during the flowering period, it is a maximum 15 to 20 days, you will be having a flowering period. So before at the 5 to 10% of the initiation of the flowering, so the farmers will go for keeping the honeybees colonies, okay, and also flowering season time. So the farmers usually do not go for the spraying because of the spraying, the flower drops will be there and the pollinators will be there, by which they are going to lose the yield if they go for the spraying. So usually the farmers will not do the spraying during the flowering time. So especially the farmers will go, in order to increase the yield, they go for the keeping the honeybees colony, especially for 15 to 20 days, depending upon what is the duration of the flowering. So why we are keeping only honeybees? Why not the other insects? I have listed 350 species are visiting, but I am telling only the honeybees are the efficient pollinators. So then what are the reasons why honeybees are more efficient pollinators? One is that, so in the last course, we have studied about the leg modification. So if you look into the honeybees, when they came onto the earth, they were actually predators. So during the course of their life, so they have learned that, so it is better to be vegetarian. So they have been shifted to vegetarian life instead of the non-vegetarian life. So for that, they have gone for the evolution. So they have gone for the evolution mainly with respect to the collection of the nectar. So where you find the glossa is modified into nectar. And when you come to for the collection of the pollen, they have a pollen basket in the hind leg. So you know that outer margin of the tibia of the hind leg, it is having a pollen basket. So this is the one reason. So during they have a particular structure which is mainly meant for the collection of the pollen. So that is the pollen basket in the hind leg in the tibia. And also you can see the body is covered with the plumose hairs. So what is the difference between a regular hair and the plumose hair? Plumose hairs is nothing but the branched hairs. So that is the plumose hairs. And the number, so into the colony, when you look into the honeybees, what is the population? Even in a small population, you will find 10,000. If it is a bigger colony, aged colony, again, you may find 40 to 50,000 of the bees in a single colony, which depends upon the age. So their number is more in an individual colony. Period of activity. So the bees they are not lazy persons. So they are very active. From morning till evening, they will be very much busy in the collection of the pollen and the nectar. Only in between, if there is a high temperature in the afternoon, they stop going for the foraging. Again, when there is a low temperature, then again they go for the pollination. So the period of activity is very long and requirement of the pollen and the nectar. So you can just consider a honeybee colony as an industry. So that supplies the honey for the human being. So what are the raw material for the industry of the honeybees? It is the pollen and the nectar. If there is no pollen and the nectar in the nature, bees are not able to survive. So because of this only, they have to go for the collection of the pollen and the nectar. And another, there is no dipose. During all the year, they will be active. And the next two factors you have is the thoroughness and the fidelity. What are the meaning of the thoroughness? For example, here I will just give the example of the sunflower. So everyone has seen the sunflower where it is having the big head. So individual flowers are called as the florets. So what the bees will do is that after sitting onto the head of the sunflower, many small florets are there. They do not leave any individual florets. From all the florets, they collect the nectar and they live. So, and when they are living, so as the body is provided with the plumoses, pollen will be adhered to the body. And so that is called as a thoroughness. So all the flowers or the florets which are there, they are efficiently attended by the bees. That leads to increase in the seed set. That is why the reason why there is an improvement in the seed set is the bees, they collect the pollen, especially nectar, thoroughly without leaving any flower. So that is called as a thoroughness. Another last factor you have is the fidelity. What is the fidelity? Okay, so especially fidelity means the bees, okay, once they start collecting the pollen or the nectar from a particular plot, from a particular flower, until the food is exhausted, they do not leave that plot. So only after the food is exhausted, only after when it is towards the closing of the flower, then they look for the field. So that is called as a fidelity. So because of this character, okay, until the food is exhausted in one crop, so they will not move to the next crop. So that is what the fidelity. So because of all these 7 reasons, the bees are efficient pollinators. All these characters will not find in any other species of the bees. Only it is in case of the honeybees, you'll find this. And this is why the reasons the bees are efficient pollinators. Okay. Then you have is what is the advantage? So you may say, what are the advantage of keeping the bee colony during the flowering season? So here, the uniform seed set. If the bees are not involved in the, as I told you, thoroughness and the fidelity. So they are the one which are responsible for the uniform seed set. If they are not following the fidelity, so today if it is visiting this flower and next day it is going to the another plot, then what happens? There will not be uniformity in the seed setting. So because of the fidelity and the thoroughness, there will be uniform seed set if the bees are involved in the pollination. Then you have there is an improvement in the quality and the quantity of the whatever the produce you are getting. So then what are the qualities here? I'm just giving you the 3 qualities here. The nutritive value will be more. If the fruits are cross-pollinated and if the bees are involved, the caloric or the nutritive value of the fruit will be more. Okay, so it may be in terms of the certain minerals or anything. They have tested it. The second one is the color of the fruit will be very bright. And as I told you, especially in case of the gourd, so it may be ridge gourd or snake gourd, any gourd. So you many times whenever you go to the market, you will be having the malformed fruit. So there they don't have the pollination. Because of that, we have the malformation. If the bees are there, so that malformation will not be there. So these are the 1 or 3 examples I have given under the quality. Then what are the quantitative factors they are going to improve if the bees are involved in the pollination? First, as I told you, it is the crop yield. Because of the, there will be increase in the individual grain size when you compare to the non-bee crop. Okay, so that is why because of the increase in the individual grain size, there will be increase in the yield. Then another, especially in case of the oilseed crop, there will be increase in the oil content if the honeybees are involved in the pollination. So these are the some of the benefit we are going to get if the honeybees are involved in the pollination: quality, quantity, and the uniform seed set. So here, this is the data just I have collected based on the research, okay, for the MSc or the PhD or some certain under projects, they have done it. So comparison between the honeybees pollinated crop and without the bee pollination, it is mainly by putting some of the shade nut they will be putting and they will be evaluating. So in the mustard, so you can see here there is a 45% in the increase in the yield. Sunflower again, safflower, okay, 114 up to you can find the increase in the yield. Cotton, it is very less because you know that in the cotton we are using many pesticides, that is the chemicals. So because of that, the bees are not visiting the cotton plant, and also others are also visiting. Other than bees are also other pollinators are visiting. The lucerne, it is 112%. Onion is also cross-pollinated, 93% increase in the yield. Apple, it is a 44%. Cardamom, 37%. Cucumber, you can say 100 to 150% increase in the yield. So this is based on the experiment. So next, I will be just listing some of the important pollinators in the different orders. Okay, it's just a list. Under the Hymenoptera, so that is the family Apidae. Okay, I'll be just telling 3 subfamilies. That is the Apinae. Apinae means mainly it includes the different species of the honeybees. So that is the rock bee, that is the Apis dorsata, little bee, Apis florea, Indian bee, it is a cerana, and European bee, it is a mellifera. Okay, all are generic, it is a Apis. One we have is the stingless bee, that is a Trigona, and another we have is the Meloponus species, which are doing the job in case of the pollination. Okay, I'll just show you the photographs and the bee species here. This is the rock bee, everyone you have seen. So it constructs the single home, and usually the height position is preferred by them. Okay, and here they're called as a rock bee because they mainly prefer the rocks for the construction of these nests. So that is why it is a rock bee, and usually it is a yellowish color and the abdomen will be bigger, and this is the largest bee species among whatever I'm listing. Next here you have is the Apis florea. This is called as a little bee because it is the smallest bee what you get in India. Okay, so this is the orange abdomen, and at the tip you can see in the abdomen, so half of the abdomen is having the alternate black and the white bands, and usually this also construct the single comb, and this is usually in the bushes you will find it. The colony size is very less. And here we have the Apis cerana. It is an Indian bee. It is a native to India, and that is why we are calling it as an Indian bee, and it constructs the multiple combs. Okay, and it does not like the light. So always they prefer the dark area for the construction of the nest. Okay, this is where you can see especially the bee itself is the golden color, and the abdomen again it is having the yellow and the black color bands. Okay, where you can see the collection of the pollen here. And another we have is the European bee. So especially this is not an Indian bee. We don't have this in the nature. but only we have brought the some of the colony from the European countries and we have introduced this. Only with the beekeepers we have this Apis mellifera. It is called as a European bee. It is just like our Apis cerana, only with respect to the size it is different, and the size of the bee is little bit bigger than what is the cerana. And here the combs number is more here. It is bigger, the comb size is bigger, and the number of the multiple combs it is constructing, it is more. Okay, and it is a very good collector of the pollen and the nectar. And another, as I was mentioning, the stingless bee, whatever you have the cerana, okay, the floria, and whatever you have the dorsata, they all are the sting bee because they have a sting and they will give you a sting whenever you go near. Okay, only if they are ferocious, they will do that. Okay, another we have is the stingless. These stingless bees are, why they are called as stingless? Because they don't have the sting. They do not sting you. Instead of that, they will, whenever you go near the colony, so one difference they have is that, so usually the bees will enter into nose, ear, and the eyes. So this is one kind of the defense by the stingless bee. The Trigona iridipennis. So you can see here, I have listed some of the plants which are pollinated by the stingless bee. As it is a smaller than the floria, it also prefers the small sized flower. Other bigger bees, they cannot enter into the small flowers. Okay, mango you have seen. So it will enter within the flower of the mango, collect, and it will come out. Okay, it is a good pollinator in the mango, mustard, watermelon, carrot, and the radish. Okay, so these are the some of the stingless and the sting bee that play a very important role in the pollination. So next here you have is the blue banded bee. So I was telling you in especially South India, we don't have the bumblebee. So this is the blue banded bee, that is the megilla zonata, where you can see the metallic coloration and the black band is there on the abdomen. So this is the one which do the buds pollination, and especially in the sun, that is the lucerne and the tomato, it is doing the buds pollination. Okay, you can easily rear them just in a tray. You can put the sand, so they will come and they start their colony. Usually they construct their nest in the soil. Okay, so this is a blue banded bee, that is the megilla zonata, which do the buds pollination. So next, again, one example you have solitary bee, that is the anther species. Okay, in the legs they collect the pollen. Okay, you can see the body is provided with the plumose hairs. Okay, it is called as a digger bee because it makes the dig the soil and make the nest in the soil. So that is why it is the digger bee. Next you have is the bombine. So bombine, I will just telling just know that that is the bumblebee. We don't have the bumblebee in South India or in North or anywhere. Only in the Himalayan range we have the bumblebee, that we call it as a bumble species. Okay, so it is a, well, you can see here what are the crops which are pollinated by the bumblebee is the blueberry, strawberry, cherry, pear, plum, apple, orange, lucerne, and the mustard. All these crops you will find them in that area. Okay, the character you can see in case of the carpenter bee, so abdomen, on the upper surface of the abdomen, it is not provided with the hair. It is a glossy, okay, shining. But here you can see the abdomen is also provided with the hairs. That is how you can differentiate the bumblebee and the carpenter bee. And also the carpenter bees, you know that they make the nest in the wood. Whereas the bumblebee here you can see they make the nest in the soil. It is an annual colony. For 1 year, the colony will be there. And by the end of that is when there is a winter, by the start of the winter, all the population will be killed except the female virgin will be surviving. All other the population in the nest will be killed. So that is why I am telling it is an annual colony. Okay, so this is the annual colony of the bumblebee. So next you have another subfamily, that is the xylocopinae. So that is what the carpenter bee. Okay, so here you have seen different species of the carpenter bee which are there in the nature. The common, I am just giving you the example, that is the Xylocopa latipus, which is a complete black in color. If the thorax only is yellowish, then it is a aestuans, Xylocopa aestuans. If the entire body is yellow color, then it is a rufescens. Okay, especially they prefer the bigger sized flowers. Okay, cotton, you know, lady's finger and the drumstick. Okay, so cotton and the lady finger, you know that they belong to the Malvaceae. The members of the Malvaceae, they are having the bigger flowers. They are doing the collection of the pollen, okay, and also the nectar. This is the xylocopinae. So here, in case of the xylocopa, that is a carpenter bee, how they collect the pollen here? Here, they don't have the pollen basket, just that you find in case of the honeybees. Instead of that, can you see in the hind leg? The hind leg, tibia, and the tarsus is provided with the stuff of hairs. This thick stuff of hairs which are present in the tibia and the tarsus of the hind leg is called as the scopa. So this structure is mainly used for the carrying the pollen from the field to the nesting site, because for the young ones, they just prepare a pollen ball. Okay, they mix the nectar, saliva, and they make it just like a laddu, what you eat. They make a small laddu and give for the young ones. So that will be eaten by the grubs. Okay, and the structure which is used for the collection of the pollen is the scopa in case of the that is the carpenter bee. So this is the difference between the carpenter and the bumblebee. You can see here the abdomen, it is very shiny, glossy, and it is not provided with the hairs. But here in case of the bumblebee, it is provided with the alternate band of either yellow or black color. And sometimes this banding pattern will be varying, but the dorsal surface will be provided with the hairs. The next you have is the fig wasp. Okay, especially this you have to remember. The honeybees, it is not an obligatory pollinator. They are visiting the many flowers, okay? But here I'm giving you the one of the example for the obligatory pollinator. Obligatory means for the ficus, no other pollinators are visiting, okay? The fruit and everything, it is so well defined that it is only pollinated by the fig wasp. I think so many of them you might have eaten. When you just open this fruit, many of the small flies will come out. Then what are those? So when your kids were also eaten these insects, because the breeding, everything will take place within the fruit. Okay, so that is what you can see here. The scientific name for this fig wasp with the Blastophaga pescens. Okay, that belongs to the family Aguinidae, and the order is the Hymenoptera. So here I have listed two species of the fig. One is the Smyrna fig, which is edible that we can eat. And another species of the fig plant we have that is called as a capri, which is a wild fig. This we are not eating. In GKVK campus, we have both. Okay. So then what is the difference between these two? So here, in case of the wild fig, so we are not eating them. So this wild fig, it acts as a source of the fig wasp. Because these are, you can see here, whatever at the tip of the abdomen you are finding, it is a ovipositor, which is mainly meant for laying the egg into the ovaries. Okay, they lay the female after the mating. So because the male is wingless here, it is a apodus, only the female is a winged, and it will come out for the movement from capri to the Smyrna. So here in the capri, when the female emerge, because the male will not leave the capri food. So when the female is still inside the ovary of the female flower, so the male will mate and it will die. Okay, after the mating, what this female will do, they make a hole from the capri fruit and they go to the Smyrna fig. But here what happens, the breeding will not take place in the Smyrna fig. Of this female. So after visiting here, just when it is leaving the capri, it make a hole and enter into the Smyrna fig for the egg laying. So they cannot lay egg. It just come out from the Smyrna fig. But during when it entry and exit, it is dropping the pollen from the capri to the Smyrna. So again, it comes back to the capri only, then only here also the breeding takes place, not in the Smyrna. So this is what an obligatory pollinator example, that is the fig wasp. Next you have is the another family, that is the Megachilidae. So these are called as a solitary bees, and they are called as a leaf cutter bees because you know that they cut the leaf in a semicircular fashion, mainly for the construction of their nest. Okay, that is why they are called as a leaf cutter bees. They are also solitary bees. So here again, they have mentioned 3 species here. The brown one is the common, where the body you can see brown color, tip of the abdomen is having a black and a white band. That we call it as a lanata, Megachila lanata. So then we have the another species, disjuncta. Here you can see in the metathorax and the first abdomen, you can see the yellowish color, that is a disjuncta, remaining is black color. In another we have is the Megachila hera. So where you can see the white color banding will be there in the abdomen, and it is a complete bag and it is smaller compared to the disjuncta and the lanata. So then where they collect the pollen? So this is the place where they are collecting. The carpenter bee in the hind leg they are collecting by with the help of the scopa. Whereas in case of the carpenter bee, on the ventral side of the abdomen, you can see here they are provided with a large number of the plumose heads. This is the place where you can see they will be collecting the pollen. Again, they mix the pollen with the saliva and the nectar. Again, they also make the ball and give for the young ones. The young ones, after hatching, they will be feeding on the pollen. So can you see here in the abdomen, you can see all the pollens are collected and then deposited on the ventral side of the abdomen. Okay. So this is how the megachilids will collect the pollen. Okay, so that is about the order Hymenoptera. Next, I will be moving it to the order Coleoptera. Here, only one example I am giving you. So this is also an example for the obligatory pollinator. So you remember, you have 2 important obligatory pollinator. One is the blastophaga, that is the fragrance, and another we have is the oil palm pollinating weevil. Okay, what is this oil palm? So everyone, you know that from the oil palm we are going to get oil, which is also an oil seed, palm oil, whatever you call it. So here there is a one species which is very minute, that is called as a Elaiodobius camerunicus. Okay, it is a weevil belonging to the family Purpuleonidae, and the order it is a Coleoptera. So these mainly they breed only in the male flower. They do not breed in the female flower. Okay, that I will just show you in the next slide. So what it is doing, it is increasing the bunch weight of this palm by means of the 35%, and the oil content will be 20%. That means if these weevils are there, so you will be getting 35% increase in the yield, and the oil content will be 20% more if these weevils are there in the pollination site. So how they multiply here? So here, as just now mentioned that, so they multiply only in the male flower. So here you can see here, this is the male and this is the female. And usually the male is bigger when you compare to the female here in this species. So the male and the female, they mate within the oil palm tree. And here you can see the mating. An adult male will copulate with the female, and then it will lay the egg onto the anther of the male flower. So the breeding, it is only at the base of the male flower. So here you can see the egg will be laid by the female into the male flower, anther of the male flower. So after hatching, it will feed certain quantity, not all. So male flower is also not damaged. Only the male is pollination. That is why you can see, even though they are multiplying in the male flower, they are not going to reduce the yield, because mainly it is the female flowers which are setting the seeds. Okay, that is why. So if they are breeding in the oil palm also, they are not going to reduce the yield. So that is what all the development will take place in a part of the, that is the male flower spikelet, and then they go for the pupation within, and then finally you'll find the adult emergence. So this is what you can see, all the life cycle of this Elaiodobius, that is the palm will, it is within the male floret. Okay. So this is only one example I am giving under the order Coleoptera. So next I will be I am mentioning the common insects, that is the name for the Lepidoptera. One thing you have to remember when it comes to the Lepidoptera, you should be very much specific that only adults are the pollinators, because immatures may be a pest, okay? Or it may be doing certain other things, but only adults they prefer to. And also you know that the mouth part, proboscis, that is the gallia, is mainly meant for the collection of the nectar, not the pollen. So during that time, they are doing the pollination. So I'm just here, I'm mentioning the species of the butterflies and the moths which are doing the job of the pollination. So this is a plain tiger, that is the first family I think so I have studied, is a Nymphalidae, which is the largest family under the order Lepidoptera. And Nymphalidae, it is a four-footed butterfly where the forelegs have been reduced. So this is a plain tiger, Danus chrysippus, which is a common, you will find it. And this is the plain tiger, that is the butterfly, that is the Papilio demolius. So, but it may be in the immature stage as a pest, but only adult is a pollinator. Swallowtail butterfly, that is the Papilio species. So coming under the family, that is the Papilionidae. They are called as a swallowtail butterfly. You know, this is a median wing 3 in the hand wing. It is extended and it is produced into a tail. Next, under the family Pyrrhidae, you can see here, they are called by the sulfur or different name. The sulfur butterfly, that is a cabbage butterfly. In the immature, it is a pest, but as an adult, it is a pollinator. Common jespel. I think so you might be knowing this jespel is represented as a Karnataka butterfly, because on the ventral side of the wing, especially in the hand wing, you can see we have the yellow color and the red color, which is the flag color of the Karnataka. So that is the common jespel is represented as the Karnataka butterfly. Then we have here is the small orange tip butterfly. As an adult, they are doing the pollination. Next you have is the Lichenidae, blues and the coppers. As an adult, they are the pollinator. As an immature, they are the major pest of the crops, especially in case of the red gram. Okay. Then we have the skippers, that is the Hesperidae. Okay, so skipper butterflies, as an adult, they are the pollinators. Then Nymphalidae, under that you have another one, lemon pansy. So this is also a good pollinator. So next, coming to the moth families. So I was telling you the Spingidae. Okay, Spingophili means that is the hawk moth. So these are the spingids. So where you can see where the body is robust and the wing and the body size is not proportionate. Okay, body size is very big. So this is called as Acarintia sticks. And this is a clear winged moth, especially you might have seen in the evening hours. It will be visiting the jasmine, which will be blooming in the evening hours. You can just, if you are not observed, you can see this is called as a clear winged moth. Okay, this is Acarintia sticks, which are coming under the moths. They are doing the pollination during the evening hours. Okay, so that is all the members under the Lepidoptera. They are doing as an adult the pollinator. So finally coming to the order Diptera. Okay, so as Diptera, only adults are the pollinator. So Syrphidae, hoverflies already have mentioned. As the adult, because the adults will survive only on the pollen of the flowers. So immature stages, you know that they are the predator of the aphids. That is the Iscudon scutularis coming under the Syrphidae. The common name is the hoverflies. And next you have is the Bombylidae, that we call them as the bee flies, because the body you can see it is a plumose hairs are there on the body and they have a tongue for the collection of the nectar. So Bombylidae, they are the bee flies and they resemble the bee wasp. Only adult is a poly. Just covered under the order Diptera, that is the Syrphidae. But as an adult, they will be feeding on the exposed liquid and also they go for the collection of the nectar. So not collection, for feeding on the nectar. So during that time, they are doing the job. So other Sarcophagidae, Tachinids, so whatever you have other families, they can also be included, but they are not, I have not listed here. Only the two families under the Diptera I have just listed. Okay, I think so with this, I have just okay, So I have just completed the pollinators. So do you have any doubts with respect to these pollinators? Students? Any other doubts in the entry? Because I'm going to close the class here. Any doubts, students?
Doubts.
ಅಲ್ಲ ಒಬ್ರು ಇಷ್ಟು ಮಾತಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ಏನು ರೆಸ್ಪಾಂಡೇ ಮಾಡಲ್ಲ ನೀವು? Okay, Pagavi Siddesh, I will just stop the class. Okay, tomorrow I will just again take the class at 9:30.
Okay, thank you.
Same ID password use ಮಾಡಿ.
Okay.
Send me the attendance.
Okay.
Okay, bye.